Okay, I want you to imagine for a second reading a raw, exact transcript of a messy, everyday conversation with your best friend. I'm talking about all the ums, the ahs, the false starts, the sentences that just kind of trail off into nothing. If you actually tried to sit down and read it like a book, it would feel incredibly frustrating, right? Well, welcome to Today's Explainer, where we're going to look at the absolutely fascinating gap between how we write and how we talk. You know, we often treat conversational speech like it's just the sloppy, inferior version of written text, like we're just being lazy with our grammar. But research shows us that couldn't be further from the truth. Spoken English isn't just sloppy writing. It's actually a highly dynamic, totally spontaneous, and beautifully efficient system that is practically optimized for immediate human connection. Okay, let's dive into this step by step. We're going to cover the fundamental divide between the two, the power of our voice, gestures, vocabulary choices, real-time grammar, and finally, occasion and formality. Let's get into it. Section 1. The spoken versus written divide. So, the renowned linguist David Crystal coined a pretty brilliant way to think about this. Writing, he says, is bound by space. It's meticulously planned out on a physical page, it's static, and it's permanent. You can edit it, delete it, perfect it over weeks if you want to. But speech is bound by time. It happens spontaneously right there in the present moment, and literally, the second the sound leaves your mouth, it's gone. Section 2. The power of voice. In spoken English, we rely super heavily on what researchers call voice quality. Because we're communicating in real time, we use our vocal cords and our facial expressions to instantly convey our state of mind. For example, if you say the words "all right" with a powerful, booming voice and a determined look on your face, your listener instantly feels that determination. But if you say those exact same two words with a breathy, quiet voice in a drooping face, you instantly convey exhaustion or compromise. A writer would have to laboriously describe those emotions with whole extra paragraphs, but a speaker does it in half a second. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the spectrogram here. It visually maps out the actual acoustic sound waves and frequencies of human speech, and it physically proves that pitch, intonation, and tone aren't just abstract ideas in our heads. They are actual physical additions to our words that carry massive amounts of context. Let me demonstrate just how powerful this is. Take a simple rising and falling pitch. If I say, "really," with a highly exaggerated rising tone, you instantly hear surprise, right? Or you know I'm asking a question. But if I use a falling tone and just say, "really," I'm stating a fact, or maybe even being a little bit abrupt. Think about the sound, A rising, means, "wait, what did you say?" But a falling, means, "yep, you're exactly right." The physical tone completely alters the meaning of the word. Section 3. Gestures are second language. Moving from sound to sight, according to the growth point theory in cognitive research, gestures and facial expressions aren't just awkward add-ons we do with our hands because we don't know what else to do. No, they are generated right alongside our speech to form a single integrated communication system. They provide direct, immediate context. If you say the cup is bigger while holding your hands wide apart, you are simultaneously communicating through two completely distinct channels to ensure you are understood. Section 4. Vocabulary, shorter and sweeter. Now, in academic and formal writing, there is this concept called lexical richness. Written text is highly valued when it uses a wide variety of complex, sophisticated words. But spoken English actively relies on lower lexical richness. When we speak, we intuitively tend to use shorter, much less complex words because our primary goal is just to efficiently convey a message to the person in front of us, not to win a Pulitzer Prize. Let's look at how this plays out for ESL learners translating a daily routine from Bengali. Instead of a stiff, word-for-word formal translation of the text you see here, notice how natural spoken English relies on shorter phrases. That first line about waking up early, it just becomes the punchy, "I get up early every morning." The next phrase, about exercising for a duration, smoothly becomes, "I work out for a bit." Then, preparing to go to the office turns into the simple, "I get ready for work." And finally, the sentence about returning home fatigued just becomes, "After working all day, I come home really tired." Notice how simple phrasal verbs like get up, work out, and get ready are perfectly optimized for daily life. And this brilliantly illustrates our next point. Because spoken English happens in a shared physical space, we can often strip away the grammar entirely. If we're standing in a kitchen together, I can literally just hold up a pot and ask, "Coffee?" And you can just reply, "Sure." Boom. We achieved complete communicative success with exactly 2 words. In a book, the writer has to build all that context. Would you like some coffee? Followed by, I sure would.
Section 5. Grammar in real time.
Written language relies heavily on a standard subject-predicate structure. Did you see that tree? But spoken language often flips this into what's called a topic comment structure. When you're speaking, you want to grab the listener's attention immediately, so you throw the main topic right at the very front of the sentence. That tree, you see? It's just a highly effective way of establishing focus on the fly. And because of what linguists call the now or never bottleneck, which is basically the pressure to instantly process and output language, spontaneous speech also frequently omits connector words. In writing, you absolutely need a temporal marker like when to glue a sentence together. I cried when it was my birthday. But in spoken English, I cried, it was my birthday. Works perfectly fine. The real-time logic of the conversation just fills in the blanks for the listener. We also manage the flow of information very, very differently. Writers break up sentences using commas, periods, and paragraphs, but speakers don't have visual punctuation to hand out. So instead, we manage silence and break up our thoughts using verbal fillers like and well. And listen, these aren't mistakes. They are absolutely crucial conversational tools that signal to the listener that we are still holding the floor while we just take a second to plan our next thought. Section 6. Occasion and formality. Written language is inherently more formal and standardized because it has really low shared context. The writer and the reader aren't in the same room, so the text has to be meticulously clear to avoid any misunderstanding. Spoken language is the exact opposite. It has incredibly high shared context, which means it can be highly informal, it totally embraces rich regional dialects and accents, and it evolves and changes incredibly rapidly based on whatever social environment you're in. So, the crucial point is really captured in this mental map right here. Spoken English is transient, it uses lower lexical richness, it relies on a topic comment structure with lots of fillers, and it absolutely thrives in informal, everyday settings. Written English is permanent, it's lexically rich, relies on strict punctuation, and serves formal, standardized occasions. One isn't better than the other, they're just completely optimized for entirely different environments. Ultimately, spontaneous speech is a beautifully messy, incredibly efficient human achievement. It relies on our voice, our body, and our shared environment to connect us in real time. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought. Next time you're just casually chatting with a friend, pay attention to the shortcuts you take. Notice the little words you drop and the very specific tones you use to get your point across. Ask yourself, are you just writing out loud, or are you truly speaking? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep listening closely to the incredible world of language around you.